If you are like me watching this, then you have binged a ton of other birth stories on YouTube and thinking about how your baby experience is going to be, your labor and delivery experience. And I am so happy to bring you my birth story to add to the list because I benefited so much from watching other women talk about what they went through. And I think it's just so important that we have access to things that other women experienced so that we can be better informed and just have a little bit more confidence in how we are hoping for things to go. So, my name is Kirsten. I'm so happy to share my birth story with you. Today will be the story of my first daughter, who was born at Rose Medical Center in Denver, Colorado. And then next week, I will share the birth story of our second daughter, who was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, in a hospital water birth. So if that's also interesting to you, then come back and check out that video as well. But both of my experiences were unmedicated, and I wasn't sure if that's how things would end up because you never really know going into labor what it will be like. But that was our plan. That was what we had hoped for. I took birth classes and prepared with my husband. But we went in with a flexible mindset as well, that if something needed to change, that we would need to be open to that because the end result that's most important is a healthy baby and a healthy mama. And so that was kind of how we approached the labor and delivery for both of our girls. So for this first birth story, my baby was late. She came at 41 weeks and 2 days. And so by the end of my pregnancy, I was not really sure if I could trust my body at all or if my body knew what it was doing because I also had hyperemesis the whole pregnancy. And I just felt like kind of betrayed, in pregnancy. Like my body just didn't know how to handle the hormones. It didn't know how to handle the process. And I felt kind of like, why couldn't my pregnancy be great like so many other women, And I'm sharing that because I know that for so many reasons, women can feel let down by pregnancy. And if that's you, I just want you to know that you're not alone. And at the same time, I want to give you hope because in my labor and delivery, everything clicked and my body just knew what to do. And it really restored a lot of confidence and faith that I had in myself to be able to get me through this process. So I want to say that first because I think it's very, very important to acknowledge that pregnancy isn't always this fantastical, wonderful thing. And, you feel glowy and energetic and great. Like it isn't like that for all women. And if that's you, I'm here for you. I understand. I salute you. And just know that it's almost over. And then you will have your baby on the other side of it. And every single day of sickness or pain will have been worth it. And you'll understand why when you have your baby in your hands. So my baby was late and I was sick. And at 41 weeks and 1 day, when this story starts, I went to the midwife because I needed to have my appointment for them to do the non-stress test and to check my amniotic fluid levels and all of that. And so I was very reassured. They said that everything was fine. And she said I could go home. So around 4 p.m., I started to feel like I had a stomach ache. And that's all it felt like. It felt like a stomach ache that you would get if you have to go to the bathroom. That's it. So because it didn't feel like anything that anyone had described as a contraction, I did not think I was in labor. I just thought, great, some other pain to add to the list. And so my husband picked me up from my midwife appointment and I sat in the car with him. We ran a couple of errands and then went home. And I was just feeling kind of restless. Earlier that day before the appointment, I took my guide dog and our pet for a walk because I should say too, I'm blind and I have a German Shepherd guide dog and then we have a pet husky. And so I love having dogs because you can just get outside and go for nice walks with them, especially in pregnancy. The walks are so helpful. So I had done that. And when we got home, I was running around the house cleaning and just like I don't know, scrubbing stuff for some reason. I really wanted to clean the guest bathroom again because my mom was coming in the next day, and I was like vacuuming rooms multiple times. I was like washing dishes that weren't dirty. It was just weird. I felt twitchy and restless. I could not seem to settle, but this low grade stomach ache that I had wouldn't go away either. And so I tried to eat a little bit of dinner, which I was still really sick from the hyperemesis, so I didn't want to eat a ton. But I was like, well, I can at least get some food in, and then I don't think this is turning into labor because it doesn't feel like anything, and I'm just going to go to bed. So after I ate, my stomach ache actually went down a little bit, which if you're late in pregnancy and you start experiencing stomach pain and then it goes away, you're just like, oh, seriously? Like, it just can be really discouraging. So for me at that point, I was like, okay, whatever, I'm going to go to sleep and we'll see what happens. So I went to bed between 9:30 or 10. And yeah, that was about what time it was. And then I woke up at around midnight with stronger pains in my stomach. And this still just felt like a stomach ache, like I had to go to the bathroom. But I didn't want to stay in bed. I felt like I couldn't lay down anymore. It just didn't feel comfortable. So I got up and I left our room quietly and went downstairs. And my thought was, well, if I am in labor, I don't want to wake up my husband because everyone had said, and I second this recommendation wholeheartedly, you want your husband to sleep because if he is involved and helpful and wanting to help you through the process, you want him to have energy and focus and strength to be able to do counter pressure and all the things you'll need him to do as labor progresses. And so Joe knew I was expecting a slave in labor, and that is what I got. And so I let him sleep and I went downstairs and I started to just kind of walk around, and I wasn't really sure what was going on, but I just kind of felt like I need to move. And this was the first part of my labor experience where my body was sending me a signal that I didn't necessarily understand, but I trusted it. I was like, you know what? Okay, I guess I'll just do what you say. And my body said, walk, just keep moving. And so I did. I was just pacing the downstairs of our townhouse and trying to, I don't know, I think I turned on some YouTube videos. Actually, I think I was watching some birth stories to try and distract myself from how I was feeling. And then my stomach pain changed a little bit and I was able to go down to our restroom and I was able to go. And that was nice in the sense that I felt like, okay, my stomach is doing something that makes sense to me because I still didn't think it was a contraction of any sort, but so I was able to go to the bathroom and then I felt a little bit better. My stomach calmed down and I was like, okay, well, that's good in some ways, but I guess I'm still not in labor. So I went and laid on the couch and I started to go to sleep. And then I got what I think of as my first actual surge or contraction. And I want to describe it for you because I was not expecting the way that it felt because I feel like mine just didn't feel like how other women described theirs. So my contractions throughout my entire labor felt like a combination of severe period cramping plus a stomach ache, like you have to go to the bathroom. So it was all low down, very, very low down in the uterus area. But I did not feel like some women talk about having contractions, like they wrap around your abdomen, you know, where the baby is. And like, I don't know, you can feel it kind of wrapping your body or something. That never happened to me. I did have some back labor further on in the process, and I will describe that when it happens. But if your contractions just feel like period cramps and a stomach ache combined, that's how mine were for the entire labor. And I was doubting what I was feeling. And so if that happens to you, don't doubt it. Those are very likely surges and you should pay attention to those. So I'm just going to take a drink of my coffee here. So I feel this pain and I'm like, okay, I think that is undoubtedly a contraction. I guess we are going to stay up and just see where this takes us. And so I started to want to move some more. So I got onto my birth ball, which is just a yoga ball. Don't let anyone fool you. It's just a yoga ball, you guys. I got onto my yoga ball and I started doing my circles, my figure eights, my back and forth, side to side, forward, back, all of the movements that they tell you to do, right? And it felt really good to do that. And I don't know why. It just did. Like the way that I was moving, my body, it was just really enjoying the movements. And so I did that for a while. And then I also walked up and down the stairs a lot. And throughout this time, every so often I would get this low grade pain, right? This surge, this period crampy, stomach achy kind of feeling. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm in early labor, I think, but I'm not really sure, right? So I would do these movements and then I would lay on the couch and I would just rest. And I was actually able to go back to sleep. And so I would sleep for chunks of time, 30, 40 minutes. And then I would wake up again with a surge and they started to get a little bit stronger. And in between that time, I went to the bathroom, I think 3 more times. And my body was just emptying everything and getting ready for the baby to come. And so I was happy about that because I'm like, okay, this really might be happening because my body is telling me that it's coming, it's happening, and we are evacuating all impurities and toxins and getting ready for you to have just a nice, clean process. So I labored like that for hours, I would say, until about 7 a.m. So it was just a combination of me making my circles and movements on the birth ball, walking up and down the stairs, pacing around the downstairs of my townhome, laying on the couch, and actually getting some sleep in between the contractions. And then the couple times more that I had to go to the bathroom. And I will tell you that I took a birth class. So my husband and I took a course online. I know they had courses at the hospital, but we just weren't able to make them work with our schedules for work and things. And so we took a birth class online. I don't know if she's still making videos because this was a couple of years ago, but there was a birth doula on YouTube named Teyler, and she had a course called Built to Birth. And at the time that I bought it, it was like $200, and it walked you through so many things related to late pregnancy and movement and the different stages of labor and how you can best help your body at the different points in labor and your breathing and the way that you can use your breath to help you be supported during the surges. And it was just a fantastic course. I cannot recommend it enough because throughout the time that I was laboring between midnight and 7 or so in the morning, I was just using my breath and I was really trusting my body. Bridget had emphasized in that course to trust your body and to just follow your instincts. And she would say, your body knows how you need to move to help it get the baby out. And I was kind of at the time I took the course, I was like a little bit skeptical, because I was like, how is my body going to know anything? I've never had a baby before. But I will tell you guys, this is not like taking a bar exam or something. This is not like something you have to study for necessarily. Your body just comes pre-packaged. It's like pre-installed software, okay? It just knows how to do this. There is a biological component in us that knows how to give birth. And I could really tell in my own body because I just trusted my instincts. If I needed to get up and move, my body sent this very strong mental urge, like, go, get up. And so I did. I got up, I walked around, I did the stairs, I did the yoga ball. And then if I felt a little bit of calm between the surges, my body said, go to sleep. And I don't know how. I really don't know how, but I was using my breath and I would lay on the couch and my body just flipped this switch, shut me down, and I went to sleep for a few minutes, like to recover or something. It was just I can't explain it. I've never had my body react like that in any other moment except the birth of my second child. So I know that it's not a fluke. I know that it wasn't this weird thing, because I think those are the only occasions where I felt such strong communication with myself to do physical movements. It was just wild. But I want to reassure you, if you've had those thoughts, like, how am I supposed to trust myself? You will. You will. And if you feel the urges, do not ignore them. Do what your body is telling you to do. Follow those signals. So I labored like that until about 7:15, I would say. And I was also trying to use the contraction timer app, but it was very irritating because the software on my phone that reads the screen the app was kind of glitching with that software. And so I could not, it was like I couldn't operate the phone very well sometimes. And so by the time I was able to stop the contraction timer, another one had already started. And so then the whole thing got thrown off because the app thought I was having super long contractions, even though I wasn't. And then I couldn't seem to track it correctly. And I was just, I was so frustrated. And I was trying to stay in this focused mindset and calm breathing. And it wasn't helpful. So I don't know. I doubt whether the contraction timer apps are the most helpful thing in labor, because I think they just add a layer of stress that you don't necessarily need. So I went upstairs and woke up Joe, and I said, hey, I'm definitely in labor, but I don't think we can go to the hospital yet. I don't think I'm ready. So I'm going to take a shower and get the hot water on my back, because at that point I'd started to feel some contractions in my back. And really what that felt like for me was a very strong tightening on the inside of my back. That's the only way I can explain it. It was like if you put a period cramp in your back. That's what it felt like. I know that sounds a little bit bizarre, but you'll understand on the other side of this, trust me. But that's what it felt like. And so I was like, I know Bridget had said that hot water was like a natural epidural or something to that effect, and that a lot of women find a lot of relief in the shower. And so I went upstairs, I got Joe, I gave him the contraction timer, and I said, hey, I'm going to yell at you from the shower when to start and stop for these contractions, and you can just do the timer for me, and I'm going to get in the shower because my back is hurting. And he was like, okay, yeah. So he gets up, he starts getting dressed, and I get into the shower and start telling him when to start and stop the timer. But I will tell you guys that when I put the hot water on myself, it was like somebody gave me a miracle angel halo from the gods. It was so good. It was so, so good. I remember it to this day, even though I gave birth over 2 years ago. I remember the incredible relief that the hot water brought me when I took a shower in labor. It was amazing. So if you guys have access to a shower and you are feeling like you just want to change up your scene a little bit and your pain is getting more intense, just try it. It is fantastic. So I think I was in the shower for about 20 minutes and I was just breathing. My contractions are definitely getting more intense at this point. And however, I was able to stay focused. I was able to stay in the mindset that I needed to keep labor moving, and I wasn't in any sort of distress. I was doing my low moans, my growls, all the things that they teach you in your birth course. And Bridget definitely helped with that. And so I was about 20 minutes or so into my shower. And then Joe came in and he said, hey, I think we really need to go to the hospital because your last two contractions were 37 seconds and 45 seconds apart. And before that, they were only a couple of minutes apart. And I was like, well, okay, I guess we can go. And he's like, no, we're going. It is snowing. We have to go. And if anyone knows anything about Denver at around 8 a.m. or so when we would have had to leave, the traffic is nuts on a normal day. But if it's snowing, it's even worse. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I guess we won't take that risk. We should go to the hospital. We lived about 20 minutes away from Rose without traffic. And so I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I get out of the shower. He asked me if I needed any help. And at that point I didn't. I was like, no, I'm still fine. I'm able to support myself. I'm not it's not that bad yet. And so I got dressed, I put on my maternity leggings, and then I put on a nursing tank top. And I will tell you guys, I really recommend either a nursing tank top or a nursing bra that has the clasps that can click down, and then you can remove the whole top, and then you can have immediate access to yourself for the baby to do skin to skin and to try nursing for the first time if that's what you want to do. Just having the ability to remove that cover right away was so helpful. And that was the only thing I really did to prepare physically for the hospital setting itself. So I put on my nursing tank top, and then I just put my winter coat over that. That was it. So Joe got the bags, he fed the dogs and let them outside, and just closed up the house. And we went into the car, into the snowstorm and Denver traffic, which was just not the best. So the way that I labored in the car is probably not conventional. And I've seen so many birth stories where women talked about laboring in the front seat, just with their seatbelt on, and how they were so uncomfortable and whatever. There is absolutely no possible way that I could have labored in the car sitting down in the front seat with my seatbelt on. Absolutely not. And this is not an endorsement of any sort of behavior. I'm not telling you to labor this way, but the way that I did it and the way that made the most sense for me is I was on my knees in the back seat, and I was facing backwards so that I could wrap my arms around the headrest and hold on to that as an anchor. And then if my body wanted to stand up, I could just stretch my legs and stand in the footwell of the back seat and just kind of lean forward so that I didn't hit my head. And then I could go back to my knees. I could curl up on the seat if I wanted to and just hold on to whatever, the headrest, the center console, the other seat, Joe's arm, whatever I could grab. And that's how I labored. I just maneuvered myself in different positions and told Joe, be careful, because I'm not in a seatbelt, but I will not be in a seatbelt. And if anyone asks me to put one on, I will violently hurt them. And that is the end of that. And so that was how I got through the car ride. And that was the best, I think, that could have happened for me, because I could not sit down. The pain of sitting was so great that it just was impossible. So we go through this snowstorm, we get through the Denver traffic, we even get through some speed bumps along the route to Rose, which was, they were very hard to deal with. They hurt a lot. So we pull up into Rose and into the front entrance to the hospital. We get out, and Joe helps me, and I stand up out of the car. And I have this contraction that is like the most powerful thing of earth. It was so strong. And I just held on to Joe's arms, and I kept my breathing. I kept my focus, but it was very intense. And at the same time, though, I felt so good, because I realized when I got out of the car and the cold air hit me that I was covered in sweat. I was drenched. It felt like I didn't even dry off after the shower. And so I wanted to take off my winter coat, and the snowflakes that were falling from the sky were like just flecks of wonderful joy that were hitting my skin. And I swear they must have been steaming on my body for sure. And so I'm sorry, the girls are running around and distracting me a little bit. I got out, and I just loved that fresh air, because I was burning hot. And it makes sense, because I was really focusing through these crazy surges, right? And someone had said before I went into labor that you should treat labor like a workout, because that's all it is. Your uterus is just contracting to get the baby out, and it's just a muscle. And I love exercising. And so I went into it with that mindset, like, okay, this is just the biggest workout of my life. And I think that really helped me focus through, and it explained why I was sweating so much, because my body was doing an insanely difficult thing. So one of the orderlies brings over a wheelchair, and I was like, well, I guess that's how it's done, right? Like, women go into the hospital in a wheelchair when they're going to have a baby. No, I tried to sit down in that thing, and I was so I screamed. Like, it hurt so bad to try to sit. So I got up, definitely did away with the wheelchair option, and I walked into the hospital with Joe through the main lobby to the elevator and up to labor and delivery. At this point, I would say every 30 to 40 steps, I would have a contraction, and they were very, very powerful. I was not able to walk or move through a contraction now. And so I would just hold on to Joe's arms. I would kind of lean into him, like rest the entire front of my body against him, hold on to his arms. And then I would focus through the contraction pain. And so, oh my gosh, I'm just realizing that I did not lock the door. So if the girls come in, I'm going to have to stop this for a second. But so I go into the hospital, and I will say too, a huge recommendation that I have is, if you know the hospital where you want to give birth, you should pre-register. So put your name into the system, your insurance, your emergency contact, your care team, who your midwife or OBGYN is, all of that stuff, so that when you get there that day and you're in labor, the hospital already has those records prepared, and they can just initiate the process of contacting your care team and getting you your admissions bracelets and all of that stuff. And I'm really glad we did that, because in the moment that I was trying to give birth, register for admission in the hospital, I could not have sat there and talked to them very calmly about my address and my date of birth. No, absolutely not. I was focusing, getting through these contractions. And so we went in. They knew who I was, because I had pre-registered, and they called a nurse to bring us into triage. And there was actually another woman there too in labor, but I think she was in earlier labor than I was, because she was able to walk smoothly and all of that still. And so this nurse came, and she started walking us back to the triage rooms, and something about the way that I was moving or contracting or something, like I'd be curious if someone in L&D, in the L&D space, could leave a comment here explaining what must have happened. But something about the way that I was moving told this nurse, yeah, this girl doesn't need triage. This girl needs the delivery room. And so she radioed ahead and said that she was bringing me back immediately to the room, which I was so happy about, because I have been terrified that I would get to the hospital and they would check me and they'd be like, no, you're only at 3 centimeters. Sorry, you have to go home. And then what would I do? Where would we go? We live far enough away that going home didn't make sense. Like I was so nervous about being sent home. And so when she admitted me right away, I was like, woohoo! It was such a relief to me. And so we go into the delivery room. I stripped off everything below the waist. I kept my nursing tank top on because it just felt comfortable and supportive. But everything else I took off, and she asked me if they could do a cervical check just to see how far along I was. And I was at 7 centimeters. I was so happy. Oh my gosh, so happy. So I had gotten myself to 7 on my own. And the feeling of exhilaration that I felt and pride in myself was just beyond. But then I also got a spike of terror, because I realized that I was about to go through transition, which everyone talked about being the most painful, horrible thing. And I was like, oh no, I'm so close, but I can't believe I'm so close. It was like the coolest, terrifying combination ever of feelings. And so let's see, what did she do then? They checked my vitals. They asked me if I wanted to have an IV placed just in case I needed any medications or blood transfusions or anything. And I said no. Okay, sorry about that. My camera glitched and turned off. I don't know. Anyway, so I was saying that they asked me if I wanted any sort of pain medications, epidurals. I did not. I wanted to just labor on my own as I had been. And they were great. They were like, okay, if anything changes, let us know. We are here to help you. And so I was free to continue laboring. By that point, I was not really able to walk. I think my body had done all of what it needed to do to move me through the labor process. And so I was ready to just finish it out, you know? So I get there and I decided that where I really wanted to be was just on the bed, on my hands and knees. And I don't know why. That's just what I wanted to do. So I was on my hands and knees. And the way that I went through the surges was kind of interesting to me, but apparently it's a very common movement pattern for women in labor. I would be on my hands and knees and I was braced on the bed, kind of on my forearms. And then I would have a contraction. My legs would straighten. I would sink down onto my chest and my stomach, and I would sort of rest my head on the sheet. My legs would straighten, and I would just kind of ride the wave of the surge to, until it was done. And then I would hop back up on my hands and knees again. And it wasn't really of my own accord. My body just wanted to do that. So I would be on my hands and knees, sink down through the contraction, stand back up or hop back up, whatever, onto my hands and knees again. And it was just this very interesting time because I was just all focus. That is it. I was pure focus and purpose. And I was just very intentional about my breath, my low sounds, my growling, all the stuff that Bridget taught in the birth course I was doing. I pulled out every tool I had to get through the next hour or so of labor. Joe was also there and he was doing counter pressure, which was amazing. I was pretty skeptical in the birth course that him pressing on my back or my hips in certain ways was going to help at all. But in labor, it was fantastic. So I was sitting there. I would go through my surges. Joe would do counter pressure when I needed him to. Then I would take little sips of water and I was eating some ice chips because I was burning hot, just sweltering. So when Joe was helping me, I felt like he and I were the only people alive. Like the focus that you have in labor is intense. And so that was how I was for about an hour. And then I went into transition. And I will say that transition really shocked me because throughout labor, my contractions had followed a very uniform pattern, which is to say that the surge would start, it would continue on a flat line through the end of the surge, and then it would stop, and then it would go away, right? The pain was the same from the beginning to the end of the contraction. In transition, that is not the case, and it really threw me off for a bit. So what ended up happening in transition was that I would have the start of the surge, the pain would spike up like this, and then kind of come down eventually. But I was not expecting that. I wanted it to stay level like it had been for the hours and hours I'd labored up until that point, but it just didn't happen that way. And for the first 4 or so contractions where that pattern shifted, I started to lose my focus and I was trying to do my low noises, but I would say something like that, and I would kind of tense up and you could see my body tensed like that, right? That is the enemy of a smooth labor. That is the enemy of getting the baby out well. And I was so grateful because the labor and delivery nurse that was assigned to me, she got down right next to me on the bed and put her face right by mine. And she said, "No, low noises. You will focus on your breath. You have been doing fantastic. This is not the time to lose focus. You know how to do this. This is just transition. You're closer to getting your baby out than you ever have been. And this is amazing." Like she just was so encouraging, but also so firm and no nonsense. And like, no, this is what you will do. Don't argue with me. I was like, okay, I understand. I'm here with you. I can do this. And she really helped me center myself again because I think I got scared because I didn't know why the surges were changing. And she was able to put me back in the mindset of like, they're changing a little bit, but it's still the same process. You are still getting this baby out. It's just that your body is again going through a shift where we're just getting to the very end. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to do what my body says. I will follow my instincts and make it happen. So that's how it was for the next 30 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes. And the midwife came in that time, and she was so sweet and encouraging. And her name is Laura. She was fantastic. Highly recommend. But at a certain point after that, I told her, I feel like I need to push, but I'm not sure if that's the case. And she was like, if you were having contractions and then all of a sudden your body feels like it's ready to push, then it's ready to push. You are good to go. And so I was like, okay, what do I do? And she said, with the next surge, just follow your instincts, do what your body is telling you to do. And if you're ready to push, then push. And I was like, okay. And so with the next surge, I did feel like I needed to push. And I am constantly amazed at the feeling of pushing out a child. It is like nothing else in this world. You really feel like you are putting your breath, your energy, your soul, your very essence down your body into your pelvis to help your body get this child into the world. That is truly the feeling of it. It is all encompassing. It takes over your body, and then you just push. It's so hard to explain how that is, but it really, like, I remember in the pushing phase, I kept thinking, man, Bridget was right. We are built to birth. Like, I was able to be in awe even as I was doing it. And so I'm pushing her out, and the baby I can feel her in the birth canal. And then I freeze because I was like, oh no, what if I tear? And then I got scared of tearing, and I didn't want to push her out anymore. And so she was almost to the end, like crowning everything. And I kind of pulled it back. I was like, nope, nope, nope. And I don't know why. I just wanted to suspend time or something. And I was very concerned that I was going to tear. And this happened for about 15 minutes or so, Joe told me later. And the midwife, Laura, came to me and she said, we are not able to get a heart rate on the baby. And your body is telling you that it's time to push. You know that you're ready, and I can see you pulling back. And so we are going to change positions, and I want to help you get her out. And I was like, okay. And Joe says that this is my mama bear moment because Laura told me to shift onto my side. So I wasn't on my hands and knees anymore. She said to shift onto my side, extend my bottom leg, and then pull my top knee and hold it like this. So I was holding it in my hands. And she said, now push. And I thought, well, they can't get a heart rate on the baby. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, or it could mean something really bad. And so I'm not willing to risk it. I need to just put myself aside, and if I tear, whatever, you know? So I pushed, and the head came out, and then Laura helped guide the baby out the rest of the way. And man, that feeling of having a baby come out of you is like it's just all bones. It's like the craziest feeling. Oh my gosh, I can't even explain it. It was so cool. And the baby came out, and then Laura immediately put her on my chest. I took the nursing straps down on my tank top, and then I was able to pull the whole top down so that I could do skin to skin, which is what I really wanted. And I sat there holding my baby. And do you want to know what's crazy? Is all of the pain vanished. All of it. The surges, the feeling of pushing, everything disappeared. And I couldn't believe it because the process had been all encompassing, just requiring every bit of your focus and your determination. And then the baby comes out, and it's just like a switch flipped, and it's just over. And I was pretty in awe of that, and I couldn't really believe it. And I sat there feeling my baby and thinking about, like, I was just waiting for the next contraction to come, and it never did. And that was, to me, a really wonderful thing, because you really do feel like it culminates in the birth of the baby, and then that's it. It's done. And you are okay again. Like it's just, and I felt so incredible, so strong, so just proud of myself and wonderful. And I just held my baby and I thought, I cannot believe how this process resulted in this human now laying on my chest that I have to take care of, which is a terrifying thought on its own. But my body did what it needed to do, and now I had earned my rest. And after the skin to skin time, the golden hour, they came to me and they asked if they could take the baby and put her in the incubator so that they could take measurements and vitals and all of that. And I said yes, but I insisted that Joe go with her because I was terrified, because I can't see. And so I couldn't just look over and see what they were doing. And I was so nervous about if the baby was going to be okay. And we were also so happy because we had not learned the gender during the pregnancy. And so when the baby came out, we learned that she was a girl, and we were just kind of basking in that part of the miracle too. And so Joe went with our daughter, and then he was narrating to me what they were doing. At the same time, Laura was cleaning me up. I did end up needing some stitches. I had a level 2 tear, but honestly, it was okay. I did ask for some pain medication because the stitches hurt. They just do. Like once you are done with the surges and your body's like, okay, I'm done with pain for a while, and then someone starts to stitch you, it can be jarring for sure. And so the stitches hurt. And at that point I was like, give me some pain medicine, please. So she gave me a localized shot in that area just to kind of apply some numbing. And then they were able to finish the stitching, which I was grateful for. And at that point I started to shake, which they said is very normal, but I was shaking like, I mean, I'm telling you, it was an absurd amount. So then one of the nurses brings me what they called a mommy mocktail, which I thought was the most delicious thing ever at the time. And all it is this hospital mug with a big straw. And then it's soda and juices and ice. And it's basically just this ice cold infusion of fluids and sugar. And it was just fantastic. I cannot explain how good it tasted because I didn't realize this, but I had not eaten since the night before. And even when I did have dinner, I had only had a really small amount of food. And when I had the baby, it was 11:03 a.m. And so I had gone the entire morning without any food, which is not like me at all. I wake up in the morning trying to eat the air. But really, after about an hour or so following the baby's arrival, I was so hungry. So the mocktail was incredible. I loved it. It was the best. So that is the birth story of our first baby girl. And I am so incredibly grateful to Bridget for the birth course and to the hospital staff at Rose and to my husband for being there for me the whole time and to myself and the baby for working together and making it happen. And I wish for you, if you are watching this and you are about to have a baby, that you have the most incredible, magical, special, but overall, most importantly, healthy labor and delivery experience that you could have ever wanted. And I am so grateful for you for watching. Have a great day.